Hey everyone, Eric here. Just wanted to make this video because I want to let everyone know that I don't recommend Focusrite interfaces or their products in general, and I want to let everyone know why. But first of all, I want to acknowledge the the rich history that they have in the professional audio gear market. Obviously, first as a manufacturer of consoles, headed up by Rupert Neve, and then in recent years, maybe like last 20-30 years or so, transitioning into like almost only making and selling audio interfaces, to now, and over the last 15-20 years, having the best-selling interface probably of all time in their Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. And that's cool. I mean, the market speaks, and I'm not taking that away from them. I guess, to an extent they deserve that. People looking to buy an interface always recommend the 2i2 because of its low price point, the quality of its preamps, the quality of its converters, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine, no worries. As I said, I'm not trying to put any of that down. They have the best selling interface of the market, probably of all time, and they have it for good reason, because the products they make in the 2i2 and other similar products, people like them. I myself used the 2i2 for a brief period of time, actually. It was my first serious interface. I then upgraded to the 2i4 first gen, and I used that for many years, and it was good, rock solid, reliable. It was good. And now I've given that to a friend for him to use. I'm pretty sure it still works, not sure. I upgraded to the Universal Audio Vault 476, which is obviously a different manufacturer, but again, it was still a rock solid and reliable interface. So I'm not talking about, the 2i2 or them not having the best selling interface and, all the credibility that comes with that. I'm talking about their business practices. So this video is essentially a rant about my negative experience with the Focusrite company. And so the answer to the question of why do I not recommend Focusrite interfaces or their products in general is because of their business practices. Now, let me give you a bit of a history to why I came to this conclusion. Late last year, 2024, I went ahead and I got a whole bunch of upgrades to the studio. The single biggest kind of investment to the studio ever, of all time. I got lots of new gear. I dipped my toes into rack mounted gear for the first time, got some rack shelves, got an outboard mic, an outboard tube mic pre, a power conditioner that's like fairly decent, mid-level power conditioner, and a line mixer. I also, importantly, got a custom-built PC from hand-picked parts. And of course, I got the Focusrite Claret Plus 8 Pre, which I'll show you right now. Is that red thing right there? So obviously, as anyone in this kind of industry, this sphere, knows that the audio interface is the centerpiece of someone's studio. Like, it is the main piece of equipment. It brings everything together. It's the thing. It's the most important thing in anybody's studio. So I spent a lot of time deciding on the Claret Plus 8 Pre. I spent a lot of time researching, other interfaces in the kind of price range I was looking at. In fact, I would have been happy to spend more on an interface than I did for the Claret, but after looking into and reflecting on my needs, I decided on the Claret because it had 8 transformerless mic preamps. And I was looking to get something that had transformerless mic preamps to go with my transformerless mic, so I can have a transformerless or vocal or, you know, microphone signal path. So I settled on the 8 Pre, whatever. I bought it. I had to wait for a bunch of other stuff to come. I had to wait for the PC stuff to come. The PC stuff, all parts from different retailers that all had to come together before I started building it. I was building custom rack shelves that I had to wait on third-party materials for. Finally got everything together about 2 months after I actually paid for everything. I didn't expect anything to go wrong because, you know, everything's brand new, you know. I was excited. I was not apprehensive. I was expecting everything to work, you know, and mostly everything worked pretty well, mostly. So Focusrite Claret, obviously, as I said before, being the centerpiece of the entire studio. I looked up their web page. They have this page with 6 or 7 short YouTube videos lasting like 1 to 3 minutes, giving you tips on how to get started for both Mac and PC. I kid you not, I was so diligent with this, right? I watched every single one of them and followed their steps to a T. I did not want to be trial and erroring and guessing and winging it and, you know, just, you know, doing stuff and seeing what happens. I wanted to know what I was doing and what would happen if I did it before I ever did it. You know, I was really, really diligent because I knew that this was the centerpiece of the studio. This is like the most important thing. And it's also the hardest to set up because it has that Focusrite control software. I've never used software as part of an interface before. I used, as I said, the Focusrite Scarlett 2i4 first gen, used the Universal Audio Vault 476, that both have hardware direct monitoring, and you can, you know, route your input audio and output audio together in hardware, so you don't have to do it in the software. But the Claret's different, you got to do it in software. Never had an experience, so I wanted to know everything before I touched a single thing. I watched all those videos, I followed all the steps, starting with the registration with the serial number, done. Download Focusrite control software. That includes drivers for Windows. Also done. So I downloaded the control software, opened it up, and I think one of the first steps actually before opening control was to set up like your general sample rate or whatever hardware buffer size. I'm pretty sure you can do that even before using the control software or going to a DAW. So I would have done that. Like, I did everything. The point I'm trying to make is I did everything right. I did everything in the steps it should. Anyway, open up Focusrite Control, and the first thing it tells me to do in Focusrite Control is like, you need to update your firmware. Click here to download and install your firmware. There's no two ways about it. Like, the screen that is shown is just that. You can't click away from it. You can't close it, whatever. You got to update the firmware. So I went and updated the firmware. And then as I said before also, I didn't expect anything not to work. So I started mucking around with it, started trying to test the inputs and the outputs and stuff. I soon realized that it had this problem with the dim and mute button, which I have made many videos of recently on this channel. They're like the focus of the last maybe 5 or 6 videos, okay? You press the dim button multiple times, it will light up the mute button function and LED on and off at random just by pressing the dim button. Now, obviously that's not supposed to happen. Dim means dim and mute means mute, right? So I contacted my retailer and I said, look, this is happening. Let's start the process for the warranty. They said, okay, you got to, I showed them the videos that I took on the issue. They were like, okay, you got to bring it in. We'll test it in store, see if we can replicate. Then we'll take it to the supplier. The supplier will give you a replacement. And I took it to the retailer and I was like, okay, here's the problem. I showed them whenever they saw the problem, okay? And they're like, yep, this is under warranty. Then I said, can I just have a replacement from one of your stock instead of waiting for the supplier to send me one? And they were like, yeah, okay, fine. So I happily walked out of there with a replacement Focusrite Claret Plus 8 Pre, right? And I thought everything was all good. That must have been just a faulty unit. It happens, whatever. I got a new one, took it back home. Didn't even fully rack it up. I just found an available outlet, an available USB port, plugged it in, and I tried the dim and mute button, and there it was again, that problem. It was wonky again, and I just couldn't believe it. So then I thought, something's going on here. This should not be happening. It shouldn't, two back-to-back brand new units, right? Shouldn't have the same problem. It must not be 100% the hardware, because if it was the hardware and they both had the same problem, then it means like only a couple of things. One, the supplier gave a bad batch to the retailer, which is quite unlikely. Two, it's just like a mad coincidence, whatever. So I was like, I need to investigate here. I need to look up whether this is an intended feature. I need to contact Focusrite. I looked up the manuals, I scoured it, right? There's just like 3 or 4 lines on the dim and mute button. They say dim means dim, cut the output by 18 decibels, and mute means mute. It doesn't say you press dim X amount of times and it will turn on and off mute. I then lodged a support ticket with Focusrite. And I said, this is the issue. And I gave them the whole thing. I was like, way back in November, I bought this stuff. I then, racked it up, tested it. It had this problem with a dim and mute button. And then I got a replacement, took it back to the studio straight away, tested it. It had the same thing. What's going on here? Is it a known issue that can be fixed by a firmware patch? I also emailed the retailer that night and I was like, look, this is the problem. I've asked Focusrite what is going on. I'll let you know what happens. So, okay. That was that. Now, the next bit is what really rattles my brain, right?